Well, hello and welcome back to On the Tee with H&B. I'm DJ Jones, Major Haversham's lieutenant for social media, and today we are celebrating the second of 3 consecutive weeks of links golf on the small screen. Fresh off last week's Irish Open at Ballyliffin, the world of golf now moves to Scotland for the Scottish Open at Gullin Golf Club, and the trio is later capped, of course, with the 147th Open Championship at Carnoustie. For armchair golf travelers around the world, this truly is the most wonderful time of the year. We hope that the sight of these courses on TV brings back some unforgettable memories for the H&B forces. And speaking of memories, we'd like to give a quick salute to our latest field reports from the forces. Remember, if you're traveling on an H&B expedition or just happen to find yourself on a famous links course, tag us anytime at Haversham Baker across social media. We'd love to see your field reports, and you just might see it on an upcoming episode of On the Tee. So today we're joined by Jim Owens, PGA head professional at Cherry Creek Country Club in Denver. Jim and his members just returned from their first H&B expedition to Scotland, hitting both Gullin and Carnoustie in the process. So we invited him on the show to share some insight from those 2 courses, as well as the memories that he picked up along the way. We hope you enjoyed the listen. Well, Jim, welcome to On the Tee with H&B. Thanks for being with us this afternoon.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
So you are fresh off H&B Expedition number 1. How was it?
To sum it up, it was fantastic. It was everything we would have imagined, plus, and as far as just the overall experience, a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 12. My guys had a great time. In fact, so much that I've already reached out to Mike regarding putting together some stuff for next year. So.
The first trip always has a funny way of leading to the second one. Where did you go this time around?
So we ended up kind of playing the who's who of Scotland there. We flew into Edinburgh, stayed at the Old Course Hotel. From there, out of there, we played the Old Course, Jubilee, Carnoustie, Kingsbarns, the Dukes, and then we ended up on our way to Edinburgh, stopping at Kingsbarns, like I mentioned. And then from there, staying in Edinburgh, which was kind of a nice change of scenery, kind of get the whole feel of it. But we ended up playing Muirfield, North Berwick, Gullin number 1. We had just an awesome time. Spoiled on my first trip with H&B. So.
Well, and you got off to quite the start. A lot of times folks will plan something of a warm-up round, to kick off the cobwebs and the jet lag, but you did nothing of the sort. You more or less got off the plane and went to Carnoustie.
We did, correct. Yeah, that was, Carnoustie was our first round, and it was unbelievable. You hear everything as far as what people, it's Carnoustie, and it's obviously one of the better tests in golf, and it was definitely a little intimidating hitting the first shot when you've got the Open Championship sign right there, and you got the construction, and people are watching you. So.
And how was it getting to play the host of the Open Championship just a few short months before the tournament arrives?
It's very good test, but at the end of the day, I thought it wasn't as difficult as I expected it, and I understand that the rough wasn't quite to where it was, but overall, Carnoustie was, we had, at the end of the day, it was probably my number 2 on the list. I thought it was a great golf course. It's going to be a wonderful venue for the Open this coming year. But it was awesome. The guys had a great time. It's not too often that you can play, a major championship course the year of a major, and you rarely get that over here in the States just because all those courses are, super high end. Obviously you're not playing Augusta or, even playing Shinnecock as much, but courses like Belle Reve, if you have the pleasure to play that. But Carnoustie was awesome. It was fantastic. Wonderful new facility, definitely more modern. And I'm very excited to watch the upcoming kind of, race to the Open as far as, seeing Gullin with the Scottish Open in a couple weeks, and then the Open Championship the following week at Carnoustie. It'll be a really fun experience to say, hey, I was in that bunker and I made 6 just like Ricky did. So you can tell yourself that, which is awesome.
That is indeed always a great feeling. And you just mentioned Gullen. By the time this airs, it will be Scottish Open week. How did you enjoy Gullen?
Gullen was, I didn't know much about it. Obviously, it's not up there with kind of the Carnoustie, the old course field, but Gullen was a very pleasant surprise. I would love to go back and play it again. I didn't play my best there. It was very, very difficult, very challenging, very firm and fast. It seemed like the wind was always, especially there, it was always working in kind of a funky, different way. No matter you would play, it was always never the direction you would think it would be based on the previous hole. So it was a really good test. It had some nice little elevation changes, but I can see why guys enjoy going there just for the fact that that Scottish Open field that week is shaping up to be a really good, really strong event. So I'm excited to watch that one especially.
So rewinding a bit, you led off the trip with Carnoustie. You followed it up on day number 2 with the Old Course. Does it get any better than that 1-2 duo?
No, I mean, the Old Course is obviously, St. Andrews, the town itself. I mean, there was nothing better. We had an afternoon tea time, so I got done with Carnoustie. We went to dinner that night, and I had asked any of my guys as far as trying to see if anyone would be interested to play before our 220, and no one wanted to. So I woke up at 4 a.m. and went and got in the lottery at the Old Course and was fortunate enough to tee off in the morning and play 36 that day at the Old Course. So it was really special just as far as kind of being out there and, having the opportunity to play it, twice in one day was, I mean, it's Disney World for golfers. It's magical. It's everything you would imagine. So.
Well, it certainly doesn't get any better. And that's fantastic that you did the singles queue and managed to turn it into a 36er.
It was fantastic. And in a small world, I was the second individual there for the queue. The first was from Castle Rock, Colorado, just south of Denver. And then I got paired up with another individual in the queue who was a member at Colorado Golf Club, just down the road in Parker, Colorado, southeast of Denver. So it was small world, such a cool day. And topping it off with lunch at the Jigger Inn, I mean, it was fantastic.
Well, speaking of the Jigger Inn and taking a little break from the golf side of things for a moment, we've always said that the time off the course is just as valuable as the time spent on it. Any highlights from off the fairways and greens that you particularly enjoyed?
I mean, it just kind of being there, the off the course. I mean, there were so many great. Everyone says the food over there is not that great, and we had a great. Every place we ate, based on the recommendations that you guys had provided, we had great food. I mean, fish and chips was fantastic. Probably my favorite was the Jigger Inn and just experiencing that. Enjoying a nice pint and some fish and chips following a day at St. Andrews there was nothing better. The Dunvegan was obviously fantastic. But probably the one thing that kind of stood out was for us was honestly the mill at Kingsbarns following golf. There is not a better 19th hole out there. I mean, it was fantastic. So, but no, I mean, the food, the people, it is just such a very great, it was a great experience. I mean, just everything from off course, on course was just fantastic.
So some might say that when you lead off with Carnoustie and the Old Course that there's nowhere to go but down from there, but not really the case when you follow things up later in the trip with Muirfield and North Berwick.
No, and those two, Muirfield was by far my favorite. That day was, again, it's right up there with your day at St. Andrews. It's magical if you do it, 4 balls in the morning, coat and tie, their lunch. I mean, it was 4-course meal. I mean, it was fantastic. And then foursomes in the afternoon. It was my favorite day of all that we were there. Just a magical day. I don't think the guys I was with quite understood the history of Muirfield like I did. And now they have just such a great appreciation of it. That was by far my favorite. And then to top it off with a day at North Berwick, which, looking back, we all agreed we wanted to play North Berwick one more time. We should have done that 36. That's just such a hidden gem that was, it's got the charm. It's a great test. It's not the, a championship course, the big guys would tear it apart, but it's a good test of golf, and it's just such a charming North Berwick, the town itself. It's a place that it reminds you a lot of St. Andrews, just very, just magical. I mean, honestly, that's the one day we wish we would have played there 36, looking back, that just said, hey, we could play this again and again and again. So.
Well, and especially with that closing stretch of holes at North Berwick, I mean, you finish up and you just want to go right back to number 13, the pit, and play it in again.
That last night we were there, we were at dinner with the guys, and 4 out of 8 said North Berwick was their favorite course. I mean, on the whole trip. So I was, North Berwick was in my, it's tough to rank them, but Muirfield was my favorite. Muirfield, Carnoustie, and 1 Kingsbarn, and then 4 North Berwick. And I mean, it was the perfect kind of topping of the cake, the icing on the cake as far as our trip. So, but next time we're going to make sure we line up 36 that day.
Well, back to Muirfield just briefly. You mentioned foursomes in the afternoon, and it's not a game that's played all that often on this side of the pond. What did you and your members think of that experience?
Oh, they loved it. I mean, they honestly loved it. It was so much fun to play 18 holes in 2.5 hours. But at the end of the day, for me, looking back, was like, this is how golf was originally played. This is how it was, came to the sport that it is now. And just so much fun. Me and my partner, we had such a great time, and it was so much fun. They actually want to try to do a tournament here, doing just kind of a Scotch foursome day late in the fall with their kind of group of guys. And when you can play in 2.5 hours, I mean, it makes a world of difference.
So it was obviously a pretty jam-packed week as far as highlights go. Any particular moments, shots, or what have you that stand out in your memory bank?
Gosh, I mean, just, as far as kind of highlights, I mean, each day had a highlight, whether it was one of my members, we had one of my guys, he birdied 18 at Kingsbarns. Which was really cool because he hadn't had a birdie all day, struggling, but that birdie just kind of topped it off because it was such a beautiful setting. One of my members, we had such a great time. He brought his father had passed this past year, and he had brought his dad in spirit. And we were taking pictures with some of his ashes and some of his remains, which was really kind of a fun thing. Him and his dad always talked about kind of going over there, but they never had the chance. So that one really kind of was a really cool, just kind of a nice, peaceful way to kind of say goodbye to Dad. That was, taking your dad to the old course and on the bridge, taking a picture with you and your dad when, that kind of, for everybody, that really kind of hit home. But, the whole, I can tell you shots, for me, probably my favorite hole, my favorite shot was at Kingsbarns. It was the par 3, and I'm blanking on, I think it was 14 or 15 over the water, kind of their signature hole. I stuck it to about 6 feet and made birdie. Hole number 11 at Muirfield, my caddy just said, rip it up over the hill. I drove the green, drove into a Muirfield member, hit him in the leg, and I had about 6 feet for eagle, and ended up making the putt. But I bought the gentleman a beer at lunch, so to make up for it. So, but everything was great. I mean, it was awesome. So.
Well, that's certainly quite the pair of twos there, and any birdie on number 15 at Kingsbarns is always something to celebrate and worth a couple rounds of drinks.
I hit a lot. I hit some good shots, but I hit a lot of shots on the trip. But that was by far my best. And having some of my guys, having one of my guys, birdie the Redan hole on, at North Berwick, and I was in his group. He birdied the Redan, and then he birdied 18, and he shot his best round. He shot 77, and it was just awesome. I mean, it was great. So.
Well, like we said, this was expedition number 1, and there's always a lot of moving parts to these trips. How did you find the planning process?
It was very coming into it, you're a little bit of the unknown, just as far as being the first time. How's it going to go? Hopefully the guys like our driver, all that. Hopefully the driver's reliable. And from, A to Z, it was on point. I mean, it was so organized. Our driver, Colin, he was fantastic. He was on time. He knew everything. He pointed us in the right direction. But the one thing, having the itinerary, having everything, we could have it on our mobile. We could have I brought the book, kind of the travel book that H&B had done for us, and everything was smooth. I mean, it was on time. It made my job very easy. As I like to say, I'm kind of an adult babysitter in my job, so making sure the guys were there on time and reiterating, hey, Colin's going to be here at 9. We are here at 8:55 ready to go. So, but we had a great time. Everything was so organized, and it made a world of difference, for us, rather than trying to do it on our own, having, H&B and having their guidance just as far as keeping everything. And we enjoyed it. I mean, we enjoyed our trip. For me, it's a work trip, but when you have everything organized, you can kind of put your hair down and relax a little bit and enjoy it for what it is. So.
Well, one of the things we always ask, especially now that you're a veteran of the H&B forces, any advice that you'd share with either your fellow PGA professionals or others who are counting down the days until their own trip?
No, I mean, I definitely do think, having some, obviously for us, I use the word spoiled with H&B, as far as accommodations and the planning and but if you do have the opportunity, make sure you are doing it. I think it'd be very tough. You would miss out on a lot if you don't have someone that kind of has, or some, travel group that has kind of, hey, this is what this is what we've seen works well. We would have missed so much just as far as, knowing that, hey, if we were to plan this on my own, I mean, I would have no idea what to do, where to go, where to play. But I think the one thing, I would strongly suggest to anyone is you got to make this trip. You got to make a trip. You got to go to St. Andrews. You got to do it. You got to do it the right way. You got to go enjoy lunch at the Jigger. You got to do, walk around town. You got to just see it. I mean, you got to do it. So, I think the one advice is got to make the trip. You got to bite the bullet, but do it the right way where you're going to get, first class service and know that you won't have to worry about anything except just enjoying yourself and enjoying, taking it all in. So,
well, now that the home of golf has been checked, where to next?
The guys, my original 7, they're already talking about going back next year and being a young professional. I'm all for it. So, I'm not sure my wife is going to like it, but it is work related. So I've got that to fall back on. We, like I mentioned earlier, I've already been in touch with Mike. He's already put together a couple preliminary itineraries for Northern Ireland and Southwest Ireland. I think the guys, either one of those options, but I know also kind of Northern Scotland, getting up to Dornoch and Castle Stewart, are definitely very high on our list. So, I'm not sure, but I would bet strongly with the boys from Cherry Creek returning to Scotland or Ireland here within the next 12 months. So,
well, we will be counting down the days, no doubt about it.
So will I.
Well, Jim, thanks again for taking the time today, and we enjoyed hearing all of those memories, and we look forward to being a part of many more for you and the members of Cherry Creek Country Club.
You got it. My pleasure. Thank you guys for everything. So,
thanks again, Jim. And a thank you once again to Jim Owens for joining us today. That's going to bring this episode to a close, but be sure to join us next week for a special Open Championship edition of the show. But until then, thanks again for joining us, and we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.